On Tuesday, the countries of Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Costa Rica celebrated their national holiday, a commemoration of the Central American Republic's declaration of independence from Spain in 1821. But in Honduras, many were unwilling to celebrate independence while under a coup government. One such person was Bartolo Fuentes, a city councilor for the town of El Progreso, who spoke out at the mayor's Independence Day party.
Siento profunda vergüenza en este 15 de septiembre por la manera en cómo se están celebrando estas actividades patrias. Mientras se secuestra al presidente de la República, mientras se rompe todo el orden constitucional, mientras se asesina al pueblo que reclama el respeto a la ley, por favor, señor, no le vaya sonido.
When the mayor ordered his mic cut, Fuentes just spoke louder.
Cierra sus oídos, que pretenden que nadie les denuncie sus atrocidades. Eso es lo que está pasando en Honduras. Un show.
Fuentes was then arrested and detained, only to be freed an hour later when protesters began to assemble outside the jail. El Progreso is also the hometown of de facto leader Roberto Micheletti. Micheletti's government has remained in power despite not receiving a single endorsement from foreign governments, most of which have revoked some or all of their monetary aid to the regime. While the anti-coup resistance has marked over 80 straight days of civil disobedience. The Real News spoke to a member of the resistance, documentary filmmaker Oscar Estrada, while he was in Philadelphia on a one-week tour of the United States.
When the time is passing in Honduras, we are realizing that we won't be safe from the international community, which is really shocking, because I think in Honduras we really trust in the international organizations, and that's something that is going to be painful to realize, but we have to know that we won't be safe from United Nations. Only the people save the people.
Media coverage has described the resistance as a pro-Zelaya movement, depicting the conflict as a battle over which individual will lead the country, a depiction that has been embraced by the coup government.
Y lamentablemente las otras sanciones que afectan a los más pobres, pues allá cada uno con su conciencia si vale la pena por el regreso de un hombre castigar a muchos.
The Independence Day proclamation from the National Coalition against the coup makes clear that in the eyes of the resistance, Zelaya only represents a path to a greater goal. It reads, "We declare that our struggle begins with the return to power of President Zelaya, followed by the convocation of an inclusive and democratic constitutional assembly to construct a new constitution that will serve as a base for our true independence, both economic and social."
I think what we can see before the coup, it was the collapse of the Oligarchy national project, which meaning the way they control the resources and the way they control the political decisions in the country. And that it didn't happen because of Zelaya. It happened because of the corruption. It happened because the political parties didn't give an answer to the poverty and the many other problems that Honduras have. And people is tired of going to a political campaign, listen to the same promises and knowing that nobody will actually do anything. Plus, we see that the people who is behind the coup are those people who were deeply benefited from the neoliberalism politics. You know, the people who have been benefited from the privatizations. This is the class of people who were actually have the business, the maquilas, the resources. They really want the project, a neoliberalism project, to continue in Honduras. They don't want to change. The people, even among the upper class, the people who is against the coup are mostly farmers and business people who were not receiving the same benefits from the neoliberalism. So it was a crack inside the upper class, and Zelaya, it was part of it. You see, the oligarchy in Honduras are mostly Palestinian immigrants who came to do business in the 50s, 40s, and 50s, and they create a whole way of controlling the state. And you see, Mel Zelaya and the people who is behind it are the old oligarchy, who just been losing power in the last 20 years, 25 years in Honduras. So the coup, there's families, the oligarchy who makes the coup. After it happened, basically they were trying to consolidate the project, the national project they haven't been doing for the last 20 years, but it's not completely done. So one of the first laws you see when the new government took power is the water law, which basically allow now the water to be privatized. No, and that's a law they may not be able to pass in the last 20 years, even with the whole power they have because of the social movement. And they reinstall the national security policy in the country, with army, paramilitary, and police working to control the social movement is something that they needed in order to continue with this project. And that's what's happening now. I would say that the coup has been successful in the way they have the control, but at the same time, the social movement is growing amazingly and is learning a new way of organizing that is haven't done before. What we have now in the social movement is a clear enemy. I think it's probably one of the only countries in the region when you can see actually the class enemy with names and last names. You know what the business are, you know who they are, who the family are, what the links between them, and that's something very important because now people know what the interests are behind this.
Hoy el pueblo está en las calles exigiendo un país democrático, incluyente y no un país en manos de la oligarquía tradicional de este país que la ha agarrado como un botín o su hacienda personal. Vamos por una constituyente porque es lo único que va a resolver los problemas de este país.
All the different kind of organizations in Honduras are now unified. All of them have something to lose in this coup. If you see the people who is in power, you would say, well, I could understand about campesinos, for example, who has this reforma agraria going on for the last 30 years and it's never done. You know, the first thing the campesino did the day of the coup, it was taking the offices in the whole country of Instituto Nacional Agrario, the institution that rules the reforma agraria, the agrarian reform, because there's a lot of land in conflict, and they are really afraid that if they left the government, took over the offices, all the process of legalizing many of the land, it will be basically gone, will disappear all the documents, and that the office has been taken from 3 months already. So you could understand what do they have to lose in this conflict. When you ask, well, what about the gay community? You know, the people who is in power is the Opus Dei, the most conservative, religion, radical people from the Catholic Church who think that being gay is a sin. So if they are sinners, they deserve to die to be saved, put it in the more radical way of thinking. But if these people stay in power, feminists, students, everybody has something to lose because this is the most right wing of the ruling class. You know, this more radical, I would say mostly like Taliban kind of government. You know, see the national channel with the president praying on the television shows that something else is going on there.
Y nos ha dado autoridad para que en el nombre de Jesús reprendamos demonios y los echemos fuera. Yo sé que se van a ir todo espíritu que ha venido a amenazar a Honduras, todo demonio, toda obra de las tinieblas, todo espíritu de brujería, hechicería, que ha venido a querer sembrar el terror, el temor, la angustia, la tristeza, la pobreza, la muerte, el asesinato, en el nombre de Jesús, se van a ir. Yo lo declaro.
More than being shocked of the repression, something that it really impressed me, I would say that is the people's reaction. That's something that I would not expect it. And it's very interesting that people start to identify themselves as a resistance member. You know, they go and introduce themselves. Hi, my name is Oscar, I'm a resistance member, and that way you know who you're talking to, and if the other person say, I am a resistance member too, that's enough for creating a good relationship. You don't ask where they come from, what the background. You only know that that's a brother on the cast, and that's something that it didn't happen before. And I think that's what saved us as a resistance movement in Honduras.
Ousted President Manuel Zelaya continues to negotiate for his return to power through the US-sponsored San Jose Accords. While the Coup government is preparing for a November 29th election, they hope will give legitimacy to the regime. Come back for part 2 of our interview with Oscar Estrada when we discuss what's next for Honduras.